This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Light equals reporting. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Cassie. Welcome everybody to the Monday, May 23rd meeting of the Easthampton Energy Advisory Committee. I'm Jamie Paquette, chair of the committee. We will get started here with a quick review of the last meeting minutes. Thank you, Connie, for getting those together, sending those out. We have any questions, any points of discussion? Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
We approve the minutes of
April 25th?
25th.
Okay.
Seconded. Sorry.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Minutes are approved.
Do we have enough people here?
We do. We have 3,
Okay.
which is enough for our quorum. So, public speak. No other members of the public here, so we'll move on to the next bit. Just Mayor, for your quick edification, Scott Tunderman, who is a member of the committee, did email us today saying he's going to have to drop out and send a letter for that. So, Connie's right now listed as what all. The word associate member. I'm sorry to bring this up again, Connie. I do apologize. But anyway, we do have you able to step into that spot and keep it at 5. Marin and Misty will still be on the committee, hopefully able to make meetings.
That's too bad. I'm sorry that you won't be around.
Yeah, I know, it is too bad. On the topic of meetings, we were just discussing before, if we move this to 5 p.m., is that okay for you, generally speaking?
That's okay for me. Does that mean you have to work, you have to come after work? What happens to you?
I'd figure it out, which is fine, but more it's just that if we keep it on this fourth Monday, the Conservation Commission meetings are typically the second and fourth Monday of the month, and they start at 6. So you guys would be beholden to an hour.
Does it have to be on Monday?
It does not. Monday is best for me, and it's been best for the committee generally. So we could move it to like the 3rd Monday or the 1st Monday or something. We could
Why
move
don't
it to
we do that?
Yeah.
That makes sense. All
right, we'll handle that as a more offline discussion. I just wanted to make sure that moving it to 5 is what's going to make Misty able to make it. And I want to make sure we can accommodate her as much as possible.
Does any of it make it? Did any change make it easier for Marin? Because he's missed.
I think, I don't know. His schedule, he's busy with school committee and work stuff comes up. I don't know that there's a specific time that's always going to work well for him. So we'll just, but we'll get his input as well, for sure. All right, so next part that we have here is municipal aggregation, which was moved through the city council, passed a resolution in favor of us pursuing a municipal aggregation plan. That was the first big step in the process. The next step now is to start putting that plan together for approval by DOER, which generally is done through the use of a consultant, especially given that we don't have any paid staff on the city government to handle that. So the consultant is who comes in and helps us do that process. Again, the cost to the city is 0 to do that because generally speaking their money comes in once the program is in place, and they have a small charge that's part of the bill. I think it's like 1/10 of a cent per kilowatt hour or megawatt hour, something like that they add in there that basically covers their work pre and post. So the process now is to engage a consultant. Mayor, I think you've been familiar with the folks from Good Energy who were some of the meetings that we've had. They are one of several consultants that we could work with. They're the only one that we've worked with. They've been very, very engaged with us so far, really helpful. We are not required to do a formal RFP process. There's actually a carve out in Massachusetts Journal for aggregation that says we do not have to do that. So we can simply choose to make an agreement with them. We could go through some sort of other process of talking to them and maybe 1 or 2 others if we want to, or we can just get the process going. They've sent me a copy of their sort of general contract that they use that we could review, and it's their services agreement here. So I'm open to input from anybody about how we might want to move forward.
I mean,
you all have been doing the work with them and are familiar, and if you're comfortable, I mean, that's fine with me. I would ask that you get, or try to get at least 3 references from other communities that have an aggregation plan up and running. And then whatever the final contract, and maybe you have it, that we send it to the city attorney for review.
Absolutely.
But that's, yeah, I mean, I'd rather get it going sooner rather than later, for a whole bunch of different reasons. And then, you know, I know some cities choose to do a formal RFP, but I agree, the carve-out's there for a reason. And I mean, if there's a good rapport with clean energy and their references check out, you know, why add?
Why complicate to the
Yeah.
process? I agree. They did send me, you know, they work with Hadley as one current one. They're also working with Belchertown.
Great.
He did give me a reference, somebody at Belchertown to talk to about them for reference. So I have that person's phone number that I can call at some point this week to just sort of get their input. There's a few others that he mentioned as well that they've worked with, so certainly we can get some references
And
in
they're
place.
nearby, which is
Right.
nice. So we're talking about something at least comparable and not, you know, something like framing it.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, similar size, similar situations. So, great. All right. Well, so then I can send this draft copy that they sent me to the solicitor and let them review. See if there's
Yeah, you
anything-
should send it to Lindsay,
Send it
because
to
she's
Lindsay,
gonna
okay.
have to set up a new account. We have to separate, or we do separate all of our legal stuff, so this would be a new
And what's your
Okay.
name, Lindsay?
mailer.
Mailer.
R-A-I.
MAILLER.
And our city attorney that's gonna take a look at it is
Right.
Mark Tanner,
Okay.
who does the energy stuff with another specialist.
Okay.
So,
So that's not the same as the solicitor that we just made. Is that a different attorney than the city solicitor?
no, I
It's
call
the
him the
same.
city attorney.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
terminology.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Talking about different people.
Yes.
All right, so we'll send that along to them via Lindsay. Meantime, we'll get some references
Yeah.
to bring, and then if everything looks good, then maybe, you know, the next meeting, we can just have like I don't know if we need I mean, I think it requires your approval. I mean, we can approve it as a committee for you to then, you know,
Yeah, it would
sign
be-
off on the contract.
We should get the legal contract back and make sure, you know, and Mark usually does a detailed, like, this is what changed, or these are the concerns, or what the options are, and the committee would make a recommendation. Once you were okay with it, we would do a final draft, and I would sign off on it, and off we go.
Okay,
So
great. I'm
guessing the contract is pretty much state language, so it's not reinventing the wheel.
Right, and yeah,
Yeah.
DOER has been through this, 160 some odd times, so imagine it's relatively pro forma, but
Does DOER have to review the contract before we sign it?
they don't have to review this contract. No, they have to review, they actually, that's a good point. They review our plan, our aggregation plan, and approve
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Which then gets sent to DPU
Okay.
for
So
their
do we have a
implementation.
plan?
No, that's what we'd be working on with the consultant.
Okay.
So they would be
Okay.
helping us put that together. There's a public review process that goes along with that. We have to put it out for everyone in the city to be able to have, input on. So there's a time period for that. Meantime, we can also, submit draft to DOER for their recommendations, any feedback that they have that they're going to want us to do or change. So we can kind of do that all at the same time, and then get that into a final place that DOER can sign off on. Then we send it to DPU and get it to their pipeline. I don't know if the city council or anybody has to sign up on the plan as well, because then at that point, we're still not actively contracting with anyone.
Yeah, I mean, we're not asking for money
Right.
at that point. And the plan, like depending on how the next steps are paid for, like if it's ARPA money or new ARPA money, then we don't need council. It's, if at any point during this contract or in the next 10 years, the city might have to spend money, we would want to go, even if we don't have to, go to city council, so on the public record, the legislative body of the city saw this, even though it might be future councils that have to, deal with the money.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think putting a plan together, that, you know, their resolution already gave us the blessing to do
Right.
that.
Yep.
And now it's only once we're gonna then contract with an electricity supplier, which is what Good Energy would be helping us do,
Yes.
to actually implement, and that's only after, I don't know if we have to do that before, after
Right.
DP, but anyway, so that'll come later.
And we have, and it's just an account name, we're trying to figure it out, but there is, on our chart of accounts, there is a line that's called municipal aggregation plan.
Oh.
That money goes into, we think,
Okay.
so part of it is definitely SREC, like we can trace it back to what we do from our landfill and whatnot. But then
okay.
there are other funds that come in, and we're trying to figure out where, I mean, we know where they come from. But what an agreement is, and Easthampton has filed with DOER like 3 or 4 times for municipal aggregation,
Oh.
but we can't, and I can get you the documentation, just see, but it seems like the plan was never accepted, and we never pushed for acceptance, and then joined with Hampshire Council of Governments, and now are using Hampshire Power, which took over that block of business, a private company,
Right.
and they broker our tax credits.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting. I think that's something interesting for clean energy to know, because of just, I mean, I would think the more potential takers of the program, the better we did.
Right.
So the city gets its electricity from Hampshire Power, is that what you're saying? Is that, I'm trying to understand.
They broker, Hampshire Power helps us get the best price for a block of solar credits.
Okay.
So, make sure that we're applying them in legal ways, like, we're not putting them all on White Brook Middle School, and you can only put so many credits there or whatnot. They make sure we're using them legally, they broker the best price and that sort of stuff. Like where, yeah, so we're figuring in anticipation of this.
And those are the SRECs,
Yeah.
those are SRECs, then those are ones that are earned like from
Yeah,
like the Deerfield and the Oliver
Yeah.
Street facilities and
Yeah.
those sorts of things that the city.
which is weird that
contracts
it's
with.
flowing into an account called
Yeah,
aggregation, and yeah, maybe it was created in the anticipation, because I think we went forward in like 2002, and then like maybe 2010, and
okay,
then 2013, and
interesting.
I think that there were just council of government
Yeah,
programs that we opted in. It wasn't as expensive,
and I wonder if aggregation in that case means the aggregation of like the city's municipal electricity
we think,
and not
yeah.
like the
No,
like the
We
collective
think
like
it's-
municipal
yeah,
aggregation.
because there's a list of the city property and
Right.
where it can be put and
Okay.
stuff, and why it was called that and not SRI. We have no
Right,
idea.
somebody just, put that in the chart of
Sounded
accounts and
familiar.
then now it's
Right.
so that's even
Right.
interesting. Okay, well, that's a good distinction to make too, though.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think I don't think really ever money will be flowing into the city for any
No.
reason.
no, but
For any
we
of
just
this,
want to
but-
clarify that chart of accounts, so there's
Yeah.
not a confusion down the road of
Yeah.
like, why would the city be getting aggregation money, that sort of thing.
Right,
But-
okay, that's good to know. Yeah, all sorts of things to be clarified and cleared up as we
So the only question I have about this is Co-op Power,
Mm-hmm,
which is the company that that has worked with,
Valley.
yeah.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know, do they do this too? They have all of these different things that they do. Do they also do the kind of things that Good Energy we're thinking of hiring?
No,
No,
not in the
okay.
same way. They wouldn't, Co-op Power does, I think, I'd have to look a little bit more into exactly what they do. I do think they help people broker electricity supply, and they find suppliers. I mean, maybe maybe in a similar way to what Good Energy does. I don't know if they do it on the same level. I think they're more used to working with like individual users. Like they'll sign up like an individual business, or people can sign up with
Yeah.
them. I don't think
Yeah.
they've done it on like that large a scale where they maybe.
And that actually is another question I have about them and I will try to find the answer is, they have some situation where they will loan money to nonprofits, and it says on the website municipalities,
Mm-hmm.
and they will install solar panels for you, and then you pay it off, and after a certain number of years, then you own it. I
Right.
don't know if that's anything that would be good for the city, and I don't really understand like exactly how they work with cities. It seems, but
Mhm.
I'm just wondering whether that's something that we should just know about in case at some point.
In the past, we've done around energy programs and solar, where someone comes to the city and says, we want to do this for the city residents, and we'd like City Hall to like co-sign it so they don't think it's a scam.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the endorsement of the city, like something like this of saying this is where we're going. It just
Yeah.
basically says this is an
I
actual
mean
offer.
more if the city itself like decides to put solar panels on all of its municipal buildings, for example,
Mhm.
whether that would be a way to pay for it. That's what I'm wondering.
Right. Well, they're offering like financing essentially, like
Yeah.
upfront.
Yeah, basically that's
to-
what it is, but
yeah.
it's very good rates, I think.
Right.
And I'm just throwing it out as
Yeah,
something.
that may be something we can talk about.
to think about,
that
because-
would be like a separate from aggregation, because they're not doing like a full like municipal.
I don't, that was my question. I wasn't sure whether they did
Yeah, so
aggregation.
the Honeywell agreement is in two phases. So
Mhm.
there's the HVAC that should start shortly.
Oh, well,
and-
so that's moving forward at this point? The-
Yeah,
Oh,
but
right.
the solar part, we're holding on as phase two because of cost of materials. And we've redone some of the arrays to be to lessen the amount of materials.
Mhm.
But we've got all the interconnection agreements and we've paid all the fees, but we are negotiating, actually tomorrow, hopefully we'll finish it. We'll negotiate everything we can for solar, but we're not in a rush to do it. We're hoping to wait out the market.
So what is it that is going to be implemented in phase
Isn't that
one?
on the agenda?
What's
Yeah.
that?
Isn't that also on
It is on the agenda. Yeah, it's the next
Okay.
thing. We can.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. Why don't we
All right.
put a pin in that
Well,
just for
that's
just a
fine.
minute, and say we can investigate the co-op power thing. Let's look at that and see what they.
I'll just find, I'm sure,
Yeah,
I'll
and
find out
It's
whether
a
or
good
not.
reminder for me to look at it too, and just see what they have, and if
Yeah.
there's an option there for something we can consider. Back to the whole aggregation area, that I did put something on here about like a press release, simply because like not something we've ever done for anything that we've had, and I don't know if we've ever done anything, at least since I've been here, that rose to the level where we might want something like that. And I know
Yeah.
Lindsay's been sending out a lot of press releases for the
Yeah.
city, at least I'm seeing them now more often, which is more of a good communication kind of thing. But if we want to even like consider, doing a press release just around the fact that the city council approved it, and that we're investigating like aggregation as a.
And it's also, I mean, a part of the process will be, public opportunity to weigh in or just learn,
Mhm.
kind of like the new city the neighborhood walkthrough.
Right.
So to say, even if, you don't have dates, it's about this is coming, and it kind of gets
Yeah,
into
that would be
people's,
good.
mind, and maybe
Right.
it's a walk around a neighborhood or here, and there's whatever like clean energy does.
Mhm.
That's coming, in the coming months, but we want to, this city council passed it. The, mayor is supportive of the exploration, that sort of thing. And at this point, there's no upfront cost to the city.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to put that out, but I think it's a good time to do it
Right.
because it begins the public education process.
Yeah, right, and maybe it gets out there, maybe the Gazette needs something for a day and like put
Yeah,
something out
and
there. or
reminders
whatever.
always looking. I
Yeah,
mean, they
right.
always are very good with our press releases. It might be
Okay.
a week behind, but in this
Yeah.
case, it doesn't really matter. It's not
No.
timely. Yeah.
Right. So, would we need to draft something like that for Lindsay, or work with her to do that?
Yeah,
or-
so I would put together a rough draft with
Mhm.
your major points.
Okay.
And then Lindsay can polish it up and then send it back to make sure we haven't, misconstrued the major points.
This
and
brings
then
us
how it
back
goes.
to
Yeah.
using good energy, because they probably have press releases as boilerplate that we could just,
Oh,
I mean.
Right, I can ask them about that too. But certainly I think just for us as like a committee in the city,
Yeah.
like without, not even like we've chosen a consultant, but just like to say, hey,
Well, that's a good
we've passed this
right.
like first step.
Okay, I see what you're saying, all right.
Yeah, we've got, we're on,
Yeah.
council has approved, the mayor's on board.
Right, and the
go
next
on.
step is working with the consultant and this group and
Public
public
information
input
and-
to put together like a plan, next step, an action
Yeah.
plan, or, whatever they,
Yeah. I think it's the first, hopefully maybe like a series of press releases that go along
Yeah.
the way, like
Yeah.
as we're hitting
Oh,
each
yeah.
milestone, we do all those things. And-
Yeah, like with the MLP,
Mhm.
we've kind of done, as a major step has happened or whatnot, there's been a quick press release so people don't forget that we're doing it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So we'll work on a rough draft and work with Lindsay
Mhm.
to get that polished up and out sometime soon. All right, so I did have the Honeywell RFP on here. I know you provided just a little bit of update there. You had said before, there was some reevaluation going on, some consultants that you brought in to sort of help look at that. Obviously, the solar world right now is a little bit topsy-turvy in terms of supply chain and costs and potential tariffs that are hopefully going to get voted down. If I can say it, if I can, opinionate here a little bit. For the sake of my own job, among other things. But, yeah, so you said the HVAC stuff is in there starting shortly.
Yeah, so HVAC is starting shortly, and that is, we did the upfront payment for that. I don't remember the numbers. So most of that was for HVAC, but there was $120,000 that went to set up solar, and regardless who does it. So there's phase 2, and we're not obligated to use Honeywell. So for instance, in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, incentives come out, but they give you 20 people you have to use, and Honeywell's not out there, and we can go with one of those 20. And what we've paid them for is to get the interconnection agreement, to verify the geographical, like when we're digging in.
Remediation, and wildlife and all
and
those
so
things.
we're there for this building and for the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
We held off on the Council on Aging because we're going to do a formal assessment of that building, and I think where we want to put them needs a new roof. So we're holding on that. We should, and also the terms, the solar terms, we would negotiate now with changing with the market. So we don't really want to negotiate that on the high end of the market. We want things to settle down. And we're not doing the one at the public safety, the canopy, right now because steel is through. Like, it's not on our plan in phase 2. We've reserved it, but we have not spent any money, like with Eversource or getting that permitted.
So right now, just 50 Payson, and you said the wastewater treatment, is it the one Hendrick Street, or no?
Boston?
Which one?
Jocelyn.
Oh, okay, up there.
I just got the agreement.
Oh, okay.
They put the wrong city on it, so. Hopkinton, so. It's a good, and Beth Greenblatt from Beacon Resources was the consultant that actually was recommended to us by DOER. So she's been super helpful. And then we renegotiated HVAC because it's a smaller portion of the Honeywell agreement, and we could use a little bit of the ARPA money up front. But with the savings and the way we forecast our debt, we'll just pay a monthly payment to them and be done in a year.
Okay.
And that would be a lot of it would be HVAC upgrades here and at Payson Ave. There's some small things that are happening like at the water department, just an upgrade of filters and whatnot. But the big stuff for HVAC is here and 32 Payson. New chillers, new upgrading the kind of filters that are here, airflow, replacing a lot of the, so we don't have air conditioning. It's like recycled air and whatnot.
Okay.
So, upgrading that, and then it'll go on to a dashboard. So the public, but as well as not only they can contract, they can look at the dashboard and figure out what's operating, what's not operating, and get an accurate count of the energy that's used in this building in 32 Payson, so we can, one, put the SRECs where they're most, helpful.
Right.
But then down the line, start adding to that, like the municipal aggregation plan, what are residents doing?
Mhm.
And also our fleet vehicles and, where, it's a hard number to look at right now.
Yeah.
And kind of start building out the dashboard. We don't have the data and we don't have the IT infrastructure to do all of that at once right now.
Right.
But these little things and like Honeywell, it's web-based.
Right.
So,
Is it their system? They're like.
yeah, it's their system. It's mostly proprietary.
Mhm.
There are a couple of things that aren't, but it's it's an easy system. It looks like Siemens. It looks like everybody else would buy it. So we
Right.
would, and it's got, whatever technical term is, it can talk to other measuring dashboards. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't mean, okay, now we're stuck with a Honeywell project. So
Right.
we can.
Just, the city doesn't pay like time of use rates for electric, right? We're just paying flat electric rates we don't ever have to worry about like market
No.
price or like
No.
time of day or whatever. There wasn't just considered one, that's obviously a whole other level
Yeah.
of thing around like,
Right.
deployment or curtailment and
I mean,
arbitrage and all
yeah.
sorts of fun words.
I mean, it's an interesting, if PVPC or a larger regional agency took that up, I think it could be great. But,
Mhm.
the sustainability of this plan and, the solar or whatnot, we don't want to create something unsustainable because of what you have to sustain it with.
Mhm.
Or something that's going to continuously need like half of personnel to dedicate
To
for it.
manage it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're,
Yeah. I'm talking about like dashboards and things like that. Do we know if, with the new school, if the solar dashboard for that is like up and running or accessible in some way?
can be.
I know that came up previously, but.
The high school has one. I don't think if it's ever up and
The
running.
high school are able to access their data for the
Uh-huh.
Green Communities report,
Yeah.
annual report.
Right.
I don't know if that is what you're talking about. It doesn't tell me, it'll tell me like how much was generated and, all that good stuff, but it
Yeah.
doesn't tell me like if it's broken or, I guess it would.
Yeah, I was
be
concerned about that,
revealed,
just
I
like
think.
something like the public can see, like right for high school or for the.
That's interesting. Yeah, for the new school, that would
Something
be
the schools
interesting.
could really be highlighting.
My understanding, the high school could do it.
Yeah.
At one point, we found out a couple of years ago that the system was turned off for July and August.
Yeah.
So, like the dashboard, we'd rather have 16,000 people going, what the? Than
Yeah.
like find out after.
Right, for sure.
But there is a dashboard tool for both schools. I just don't know if it's for pulling, but even if it's just how much we use or how much we
Yeah.
save, it might be something good to put.
Is there somebody in the city who like monitors that regularly, or is there like, do we have like an asset manager, or is it part of like anything like that?
I would talk to Larry Carnes
Okay.
in the school.
The school, yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that would know, and maybe how to access it. Like, oh, you want to do that? That's great. Like, this is the password, or
Yeah.
this is who you should talk to.
Okay.
I have something like that, what I use for Green Communities, but that shows me like the year. It's like, this is
Right.
how
It's not
used
showing you
for
like
the
real
year.
time or anything like that
It might
necessarily.
show me more if I
Yeah.
dug into it, but I've only done it when I needed to do for Green
Okay.
Communities, so it's a good tune. I can look into that too.
Okay. Yeah, and figure out if there's, whoever installed the stuff for the new school, like whoever, usually you get, obviously, a dashboard, you get, monitoring services that come with that.
Yeah, and the project managers for the new school are the same for the old school Colliers.
Right.
And it's some of the same team. So even if Larry doesn't know or knows just a little bit,
Mhm.
he'll be able to tell you who on that team is the one who is behind that, like,
Right.
or who could get you answers.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be good to do that. Maybe, I know the schools would maybe benefit me just having it up on their website somehow if they could integrate that and you
Yeah.
could see it. John, do you have something?
I don't know, this may be common knowledge, but I have a Solar Edge inverter,
Yeah.
and, I get real time, how many kilowatt hours are
Yeah.
being produced, watts are being produced at any given time, then it's web-based.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of times it's from the inverter companies where there's a separate monitor, but it's just like you get that along part of your installation agreement,
Yeah.
whatever. Like and here's how you can go monitor your.
So just because I often don't know what you guys are talking about. So what we're saying here is that there is something monitoring it. It's just that it's not publicly available. The data, you can't go and
Correct.
see it.
Right.
And we're
That's-
hoping that maybe eventually we'll be able to make it so that anybody can
it.
just go see it.
Right, or yeah,
Okay.
you choose like, okay, you can put up, here's, put up the real time, you can put up, hey, here's what it's generated this month,
Right.
or for this year, or
Okay.
whatever.
Thank you.
And people can just see that information
Yeah.
and learn about it.
That would be great, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, along with just sort of like, public education, which is kind of get
Yeah.
us into the next thing. So I want to make sure to close the loop on the Honeywell thing. The HVAC work that's being done, you said starting now, and what's the time? It's all done over the next few
We're-
months, 6 months, a year?
If all of the materials come in the way they should and they don't have labor shortages, it will be about 10 months.
Mhm.
It could be shorter, just depending. I mean, they've been in our systems and are kind of, if they find something weird or like, I don't know, the filter size doesn't, but no more than 12 months is what, the contract guarantee is, and then there are penalties.
Okay.
So what's on the city website, is that what they are going to do, the recommendations that were made, the last document, or is there now another document?
There's another document, there's
That's
another but has not been
I was gonna say
executed.
it's about to be put up, okay.
Right, so, and it clearly splits it's very clear about what they're gonna do. There's a lot of things that they're not gonna do because we feel really strongly that there'll be some federal money
Right.
to go. And honestly, depending on what happens as far as OSHA and air quality guidelines, like we're updating it as much as a system, the age of it can be, but we're not gonna go overboard. Like, nobody
Right.
wants the most expensive house on the street. Nobody
Right.
wants, because we might just have to replace it all. And eventually we will.
Are we talking wastewater treatment plant here?
No, we're talking about this building.
Oh, this one.
The wastewater treatment plant is just a whole other, yeah, the last time it was updated was the year I was born,
Oh, my God.
55 years ago.
Oh, my God.
And they've done repairs and like the best they
Yeah.
can, and it's amazing what they do. But like the first, big upgrade, so we can certainly, I mean, it's not on the agenda, that and just what we're doing with some of the ARPA money around the pump houses. And how little we actually need them, but they have to run 24/7. It's a lot of electricity.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's one of the higher users as I look at the Honeywell report.
right.
For water and
Yeah,
wastewater.
wastewater is just, yeah.
Are you looking to see whether there's ARPA money to renovate or replace the wastewater treatment plant, or do
Yeah.
a design study, or?
Yeah, so we've done a design study,
Yeah.
and not just Honeywell, and talked to DOER and different folks about, do we wait for federal money or state money, or do we not? But the stormwater management plan, like a lot of it is what needs to happen at that facility. From HVAC, from, new equipment they need, taking pump houses, I don't know, I think we have 15 pump houses, I think we can go down to 8, but every pump house you do is anywhere between $250,000 and $350,000. But the return on investment it's big. So ARPA money is definitely going to be used for some projects, and we've actually used a little bit to get a better idea of energy impact and what we could do as soon as possible.
Do you know how much you're gonna get from ARPA?
$4.7 million. So the ARPA plan.
Citywide stuff, or just for this purpose?
No,
Overall?
citywide.
Yeah.
And so the ARPA plan we did it, and then the rules changed, and so we redid it, and got it back from the consultant, and it'll go public. I mean, technically it's public now, but I'll present it to city council. Maybe not on the first, the 15th, the extra meeting, and then so people can digest it. I think they're gonna send it they are gonna send it for public comment. I mean, it's already in place, but for the public to comment or ask questions, probably to finance or public safety for the plan.
And what are the strings attached to how that money can be used?
Well, I mean, the final regs helped a lot because you can do revenue replacement, and that's any government service,
Oh.
like anything. So, I don't know, there's, yes, there's a consultant, but we have to do a data or whatever, and it's gonna cost money. Well, that's a government service, you know, to a government committee, so there could be a request from the committee saying, look, we really need $15,000, you know, just to get this, you know, and it would definitely qualify under ARPA.
Right.
I mean, they want you to use it on infrastructure. It's a big deal. But-
What's the time frame for spending that money too? Do you have to have, is like a cutoff date after which?
Yeah, so we have until December 31 of 2024
Okay.
to spend it or have executed contracts that will actually take place and be done by December 31st, 2026.
Okay.
That's soon, actually.
It's very soon. And,
It's faster. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, oh, that's a long
it's-
time. No, it's not.
no, it's not. And the state legislature has $4 billion of ARPA money that I don't know what they're going to do with it, but we
That's
are
over
out
and
of money.
above, that's over and above.
Over and above.
Yeah.
And we're out of our money, you know, because it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
You know, or, okay, so we're gonna do this plan, and we spend money out of whatever account we have, and then the legislature says every community gets $500,000
I
for
see, now I
aggregation,
understand.
and, you know, it's not gonna be any of it.
Right. Right. Try to be as flexible.
And do they have the
and nimble
same-
as possible.
Timelines?
They do, it's freaking crazy.
So why don't they get going? Don't, I'm just saying, rhetorical question.
Not going to be solved in this meeting, sadly.
Yeah, it's very worse, very worse.
Okay. All right, that's a good
Thank you for
overview
that.
of all that. And then it
Yeah.
kind of plays into this next part, which, we've been collecting some ideas internally for new initiatives, things that we might,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the aggregation is one thing, but, other stuff. And then also, I want to invite you here today to see, what sort of your priorities are for the city level from an energy standpoint. You mentioned the Council on Aging. We can kind of jump around here a little bit because that was one thing we've been talking about. You had looked into some stuff around the Council on Aging, the library, and like what might happen there. But, you were saying the Council on Aging is looking at some different options for where they.
Yeah, they're doing kind of like a study, not a full, basically, the study would be the use of the UMass study that they did maybe 5 years ago, and with the services in the space, and trying to realistically apply those to the current building. And what that would look like and how it, and if it could happen. But given the time, given the competition and the amount of money, especially local dollars, to build a new COA or like do over Manchester, which we tried to do.
Right.
It's huge, it's competitive, and while we just think the current building that we own, we can make it a little better right away and then go from there and then decide, we would rather bond for energy improvements over, building a brand new senior center. And the Council on Aging, I think, is in a great location.
It
Like,
is a
it's
great
Like
location.
everybody, you could do a whole bunch of
If
stuff.
only there was parking.
Right. So.
Parking and accessibility is the other thing too, right?
Accessibility, well, I mean, I'm sure you're well aware of the issues in that building, like the
Yeah.
fact that they can't use the basement.
Yeah, no, and we have a citywide ADA study going on now.
Right, I knew that.
Yeah.
The other thing that really concerns about that building, speaking as a speech and language pathologist, is it's a horrible space because
And
of the
that's
hard
one of the big
surfaces.
things, is what can you do
Yeah.
for privacy, but also treatment.
So this is a slightly off topic, but it's a long time ago. There was, you had all those meetings about what do we want to do in the city, and there was a discussion of taking the library, making a complex of the library and the Curtis School, is that the yellow school? What's the name of that school? Pepin, sorry.
Oh, Pepin, okay.
And making a complex that would like take advantage of both those buildings, but
Yeah.
add in a senior center as part of it, and then it would
Yeah.
also be a childcare center. Is there any chance that is on the horizon if we get a huge amount of money? Because that would be, in my mind, a fabulous solution for the Council on Aging, is to just get a new facility, which is what they would get out of that.
Yeah, I mean, the answer actually is connected to this group, and its function is that we have $20 million to spend our wastewater plant and water system to meet our federal permitting, and if we don't do that, we get fined. So I would humbly say,
We have to do that. We have no choice.
right, and we would not do that. Like,
Because
we don't want-
we can't do both, is that what you're saying?
yeah, and even if we could, I mean, I just don't, cities more and more shouldn't own buildings.
Oh, that's
Like, we want to get rid of as many buildings as we can, especially old ones. You know, and to my point, that we did a study of all the schools
Yeah,
before, because you have to do that before you get
Right.
approved for a school.
Yeah.
And it was too old and whatnot for accessibility for
Right.
kids,
Oh, yeah.
for students and whatnot. And the amount of money to make it so
Yeah.
was cost prohibitive.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we got the grant we did from
Right.
the state to build a new school. So
right.
we know kinda how much it costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other side of that kind of is that I know right now with the current, soon-to-be ex-school buildings, that the city, right, is about to open up an RFP process for people to bid on, or to
Yeah.
come up with ideas for what's gonna happen with those. And so that's sort of an ongoing,
Yeah,
Then they'll-
we're hoping the RFP
just-
goes out in July.
right.
I didn't interrupt for, but.
No.
No, but are you suggesting that we're gonna raise some money from that? Is that what you're suggesting? Or are you suggesting that we're gonna keep those buildings and remodel them? We're
So
gonna sell them?
there's a resident-based work group that's working on that,
Yeah,
and we'll make recommendations pretty soon.
okay.
But their focus has been, and it's within a lot of our plans, is housing.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, and we desperately need housing. And then that brings up, I don't know what the final RFP will say, because once the resident group is done, then it goes to city council, and city council actually not just signs off on the RFP, they can add, or they can, they really write the final RFP. So they could just say, oh, this is great, thank you, work group will sign off on this, or,
So, I'm a little confused though. I thought you were just saying that the city shouldn't be owning buildings.
Right.
So would the city own those housing, if those, oh, okay, so you,
No.
so, I don't understand, so the RFP would be having people,
Who wants to make use of it, for what purpose, and what does the city get out of it, right?
Okay.
Essentially.
Right.
okay.
So
Okay.
back to your original point, it sounds like with the Council on Aging, like the go-to right now is like to try to do best to stay in that
Yeah.
current building. Any other plans that were considered are kind of off to the side for now,
Right.
like whatever energy project, accessibility projects that they can do to make that the best situation.
And we're gonna
ever.
wait for that citywide ADA
Mhm.
plan, because like a lot of others, like it builds on
Yeah.
us getting grants and whatnot, so.
Yeah.
yeah, it's-
What do other municipalities do about Council on Aging buildings? Do they own them, or do they? How
There's
does
a
that work?
whole bunch of different, I mean, there's probably 351 solutions or projects, the same number of municipalities.
See, speaking as a person of a certain age, I can tell you that I personally have no interest in having a specific facility that is just for someone my age.
Right.
I'm just not interested in that. I think it's the wrong way to think about it. I think that we could use a community building for people to be able to use, that would have certain facilities, that would have things that would make it accessible to the elderly. But,
Yeah, multi-generational, I mean, there are formal and informal places now that do that in Easthampton, and I agree, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
next step. And maybe there's a way to do it in the existing building, or, that's the next step, but you're talking anywhere between 9 and 17 million.
to build something,
Yeah, Hadley has an awesome one.
that's
Yeah.
insane.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, so.
Back, so, but-
Okay, sorry, I'm
No, it's
going to
okay.
take
No,
this
that's
off topic.
fine.
I'm just trying to
That's fine.
understand. Okay.
It's all connected in ways, so yeah, it's helpful to understand all these things. I was just going to ask too about the library, whether there any specific plan or whether the city really has any involvement with anything going on.
I mean, we
there.
might, I mean, we don't not want to be involved,
Mhm.
but, 10 or 15 years ago, they voted to become their own entity.
Right.
So they're not
Oh.
a city department,
Right.
but we, there's an amount that we give every year that's
Right.
calculated statewide so they can get more reimbursement.
Mhm.
And that agreement could change, and maybe it'll change. And they're, it's super small. I'm finding them, new space and in an appropriate space. And what that board has, the board has requests, but they have to vote on them.
Mhm.
And, sometimes the request for more money from the city, and that's just, it's a complicated situation because they have an endowment because
Yeah.
of what the program does, which is all awesome. So more likely they get one-time funds from sometimes the Williston School, but also over the last year, we funneled like 25,000 for different specific programs
Mhm.
to help them out and then give more space in the operating budget.
So if they want to do like some energy-related project, that would really kind of be on them
Mhm.
to lead
Yeah.
that and like.
Well, especially as my understanding is any money they get from the city has to be used like for salaries and things like that. They can't use it for infrastructure. I read that in something online on the city's website somewhere or other. So.
Yeah,
that's
it's
a problem,
I mean,
like-
the
yeah.
Library Board of Massachusetts doesn't make it easy.
Yeah,
It-
yeah,
It's really focused on bigger cities,
yeah.
than it is on places like us. But, yeah, the projects, you were asking me, priorities and projects. So
Yeah.
one is, a complete climate action plan and resiliency plan.
Yes.
So, started to look, I know you were looking at, and, Westford and, Salem and New Bedford have been recommended plans. So Westford is more like our size. They have more money than us.
Yeah, it's a very different community.
Yeah, and then Salem has an extensive thousands of documents, and New Bedford's is more like they rounded up everything was going in the city and put it into one plan and made it very action oriented. So this is what we can do right now, fix the HVAC. Another thing, and you can pick off projects, but it forecasts, first of all, what are those things that you do? Like whatever there is energy related, that you would do this first and not that. And if you did that before this, it wouldn't be as cost effective, or you don't get the results. So we would look for, and as I said, Cassie's already been looking at plans, for a consultant to do that and work with Cassie and work with. The other stuff that is fascinating to me, I went to a clean energy innovation conference where entrepreneurs are looking to partner with municipalities on different, all sorts of different things. And there's this one interesting model that they help cities, but also like municipal employees or whatnot, sell their car and buy an electric car and get the $10,000 incentives from the government, state and federal government, but also a lower price than they would on the market. And I find that fascinating.
That's such a great idea.
It's neat, and they'll organize, they'll do it all, and they give us a dashboard. So the first step, because I just want to see how it works, is we're going to give them the VIN numbers of city vehicles, and they'll calculate those out and show us, and then compare it to, I think there are 40 electric vehicles right now on the federal site that Massachusetts also accepts. So somebody would, want a Nissan Leaf or a Chevy Volt, and they would help make sure you get the rebate and the best price possible, and and show there's actually a financial literacy class that goes with it.
Mhm.
They're doing it out in, I forget what, in Roxbury, where there's a teacher like showing the kids what the savings is and what you can do to that. And then also they focus on teachers in Roxbury.
Mhm.
So if you're a public teacher, you get this opportunity to do it, and they pick up all the heavy stuff. So it would be for residents, it could be for fleet
Oh, it could
vehicles.
be for residents as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah, no,
Do
I
they do
mean,
this for a percentage of what you save with their services, or a flat fee, or how do they?
they would get, we would do a flat fee for like putting the dashboard together, and then their money is when they wheel and deal the price of the car.
Mhm.
They get like a finder's fee.
What's the name of the, is there a specific name of the company or the, yeah.
I think it's Move EV, all one word. I was like,
Like
go
Move.
move, yeah.
M-O-V,
M-O-V-E-V.
M-O-V-E-E,
Yeah.
M-O-V-E-E-V?
Yeah,
Oh, 2 E's?
I
Should be
don't,
one.
yeah,
Should be one.
I don't know.
Okay.
And they're a startup, and they're connected to the New England Clean Energy Collective in, and this place called Greentown, that's in Somerville.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Say the name of that again, the New England, what was
Clean
it?
Energy Collective.
Clean Energy Collective.
So,
Right, that's their
So,
whole,
you started out talking about a complete climate action plan in these other towns, and actually working on it. I missed the intro to that. These are things that you're bringing to the committee as priority, things you'd like to see us.
well, I mean,
Oh.
you would be ideally, I'd love this committee to be we would help you, the host of the public hearing. So, like when you go through, like the new city thing again, right?
Mhm.
So you hire somebody to do the plan, Cassie is supplying data, probably a whole bunch of departments, DPW and whatnot, and they'll come up with a report that, or first part of like phase 1 that kind of captures where we are and what the master plan and what housing and all these different plans we've done, like what the priorities were. Like our arts vision plan had a lot about housing and energy efficiency for makers and artists. It was really kind of interesting. So then you get this first phase, they set up the public hearings, and I was thinking, if it's sponsored by the Energy Advisory Committee,
Sure.
name, I'm not trying to put, that would make more sense. Like when we do a planning, the planning department, sponsored the public hearings for the housing needs and production plan and for the housing strategy, but the consultant does it. And we coordinate like the space or, whatever it is. And, maybe there are people's, like right now we're having tons of success with those walking tours. So maybe there's a climate resiliency walking tour, and then there's a kind of a public hearing where, people are hearing a little bit of information, but really putting stickers on what's most important to them. And then the consultant takes it all back, and they start forming different postulations and whatnot. And then there's another public hearing, or I should say public event, and it can put in, there's probably a survey that we'll push out via email, maybe a mailing, to get, so there are a couple ways people could participate and say what, it might be for solar. I'm not saying we would do this, but for solar, there could be a local incentive, right?
Mhm.
Or, if there's a local incentive on an aggregation plan or on a car to get switched over, because it's really important. People want to see, carbon footprints going down. One of the best ways to do that is have an electric car or get rid of your car, or an electric bike. So look, the city will give you $150 rebate if you buy an electric bike, and stuff like that. But it's cool because the plan is considered relevant, like 5 to 10 years. So you can pick and choose your grants and say, look, this is a community priority. It's not like you have to go back out and put together those hearings. Like this is a priority.
I just reread sections of the most recent master plan of Easthampton. I think it's 10, 12 years old, I can't remember which
08.
year. Oh, wait, more than that,
Yeah.
14 now. And I was impressed by how many items that were listed under the energy section that have one form or another come to pass or in process.
Yes.
I mean, from forming the committee
Mhm.
to work on the EVs, the fleet, to the Honeywell type,
Yeah.
ESCO contract,
Mhm.
to the landfill solar. I don't know about the smart growth. I know we're working on stuff like that, but I don't
We
know.
have smart
Yeah, so
growth
I mean, it's-
designation.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's part of the
So I
Union
want to know,
Street stuff,
if
I
you've been
think.
here 3 years,
On this committee,
Yeah.
just over 2, I think.
where are the people, who were the ones who were on this committee when this stuff was getting put into place? It's all you?
Well, no. Well, I mean, a lot of that, but who started the committee and who, I mean, Mayor Tosnick was like, that was his thing, was
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing that happened in '08 around that with that master plan, when you go through every section, it is, and state officials and consultants have said this to it, it's amazing how on track we are with that plan.
Nice.
Like, so it was like, okay, it was written in '08 and maybe came to publish in '09, and people started ticking them off. Like, we're doing it. If you look at the charrette of the Mill District, now look at the idea, we're doing that. We've done that. And there's still more work to do. But our master plan, it's one of the reasons why Jeff and I focused on chapters of the master plan, because it's really expensive to do a whole one, but also the process is time consuming, and we knew we had to support our arts community, our maker community. We knew we had energy work to do. We housing, but we didn't want to wait to get through this. So, and every chapter we kind of updated, we did with a consultant who was hands-on, was publicly focused, so we could do one at the other and then go after the grants.
I like the idea of this going forward with a new master plan that focuses on, well, energy and
Or
sustainability.
climate action and
Climate action,
resiliency,
sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
So is there a consultant already in place for that? Or is it
No.
something that's happening at the individual
I had
department
my
level?
first, no, it'll be
Okay.
all the departments. There'll be, the woman who's helping us with the solar is talking to DOER about who's doing what work, if there's grants, if we can use this meta money for it, that, I have no idea what that is, but we'll apply for it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it does, sounds. And, kind of roll it out. It's also a contract, or it's, it also has a carve out, for procurement, but like, what I said, like, where to get referrals, like recommendations and whatnot, so, to talk to, I think, on something like this, because it's just so big, I think if nothing else, if we don't have to do an RFP, there should be interviews on Zoom or whatnot, and they come in and say, this is what we did for New Bedford, or this is what we did for Hadley. And you guys get a sense, like, of what matches. We've had some consultants who are very competent, but they're, like white toast dry. And we're a little more, we're interactive, people come out to our meetings, especially around this topic, people care, like, that's that sort of thing. So I would recommend that.
Can I finish the thought that I started there a minute ago? It was just, I calculated the total city energy use using Honeywell data
Yeah.
as a proportion of overall community energy use. And so it's a surrogate for greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah.
The city, is heading in a great direction, and with 80-something% of electricity, whatever, coming from the landfill or solar arrays and
Right.
purchased green energy.
Yeah.
But we're a drop in the bucket in terms of the overall community usage. I
Right.
calculated it comes to 0.000005 or 6%.
Yeah.
With the municipal use generation
Mhm.
of energy use and greenhouse gases over what the community as a whole does.
Yeah.
So that's why I'd like a climate action plan that goes beyond, reinforce what we're doing, goes beyond what just the city itself does and what.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why this Move EV kind of startup was interesting to me because it would go after cars, you know, and it wouldn't be city managed. It's not like, you know, we facilitate it, but there's not a cost, right? The cost is in the purchasing of the car, and also, which I don't know why I never thought about this. It's also a model that gets you off of level 2 chargers and level 3 chargers, and just does 110 charges for people who are one place. Like, I drive in, I plug into a regular 110, I'm a municipal employee or a resident, it's free, you know, and you sit there. I mean, I just plug my car into the same one I plug my Christmas lights to, you know. And
So
sometimes
is this something that you think actually might happen relatively soon, or is this just
I think we would explore it, but again, I think that there's a public process to it, you know, and I think that the startup is going to want to do that because you do all this front work, and then only 2 people buy the car or whatnot. But the seal of the deal here is there can't be any cost to the city, right? Like, we'll pay for what we have to do anyways, which is a study of what the city cars do, and then the program has to run itself. So, like, one of the big things with car chargers and even Valley Bike, it's awesome, but it's not paying for itself. And we, like Valley Bike, we were promised it would, and then a couple of cities dropped out of the overall system, and then they redispersed, and now we pay. So I'm very conscientious about that now.
Right.
You know, so I think there would be, you know, these are startup people, and I also like that we wouldn't get stuck with a whole bunch of equipment we didn't like, or stuff that if the community was going to participate, like, they have they end up with a great price on a car, and if we do it based on income, then, you know, that'd be wonderful when you drive around and you need reliable transportation. There are no buses, so I don't know if it can or not. Like, it's just, it was a good enough idea that I said, sure, I'll talk to you for an hour. And Jeff and I talked to him for an hour and about what that, and we kind of showed him the city of what kind of cars there are. So who knows?
It's an interesting conversation. There's certainly some risk assessment that has to be done and all that.
Exactly.
And you mentioned buses, so I'm going to sort of wrap this into something that we've started talking about, which is sort of the school bus electrification there, which obviously has a few complicated things. There was a startup company involved there that we had talked to a little bit, you know, and we were unfortunately, like, sort of right at the time, you know, recently where the contract was coming up for renewal, not a lot of chance to influence that process right now, but good chance to start the conversation for the future, which is, you know, 3 years or so from now, or probably 2 years when we really start thinking about it. To have that be something that maybe we could prioritize as well. I think that has to be communicated a little bit between.
Yeah, and I think that there's also a risk assessment. So most school districts, like when I ran a school transportation company and also oversaw special ed transportation in the city of Holyoke, there is a tipping point of owning your own vehicles, and I think electric probably would be, the maintenance is much different, but it's like, okay, maybe it's worth it, but that means there's a capital investment like every 5 years or 3 years, and then cities' budgets change, or schools and whatnot. But again, there's a lot of money out there for startups to do stuff. The Federal Highway Agency is about to throw a whole bunch of money at different projects. So when you talk about electric buses, it's like to do an electric bus pilot just around the city for anybody who wants to catch it. Like, somebody really wants to take that on, the Federal Highway Association, like they're fascinated by that.
PVTA.
That would be, I think, different from PVTA. PVTA is doing their own.
I think it would be.
Who would run a bus?
We say it could be like a municipality. Maybe they're looking for people who want to do pilot projects.
So you just like just a bus that would just go around Easthampton and
maybe
pick people up.
I mean, there are a whole bunch of different options of money, but like with an electric school bus, or somebody who's willing to do that, and it's a company that's looking to invest. like I could see Valley CDC or Community Action or whatnot. So a municipality would go in on a big grant, and that grant, like Easthampton would buy in, and for the grant they got for $100,000. I mean, those ideas. I mean, if you go to the Federal Highway Agency, they have a lot of stuff, and the regional director, which I keep meaning to do, we should probably invite. We could invite him and the assistant director to this meeting.
The regional director of
the Federal Highway
Administration.
wow.
Yeah, and the deputy secretary is the former transportation secretary from Massachusetts, Stephanie Pollock. So, who has been here several times.
Well, I mean, I think it'd be great to see what might be available down the road from the feds about getting electric vehicles. Like the Council on Aging wants to do something in that regard.
Yeah, there's lots of opportunities coming up. I mean, we've already.
But it's also a priority thing. I mean, not to, but it's like this, this committee and connecting it more and more in the community and what the priority is. I agree that to get rid of as many private cars as we can and get them into electric, it's pretty amazing the impact on the environment. And if you don't need a level 2 or level 3 charger, and most people think they do, probably most people don't need them, that's huge. Driving around the city.
Right, it just saves all the infrastructure costs having to do
Right,
all of that stuff.
and there's, I mean, now the diesel trucks is,
Right.
another thing.
Yeah, well, the other part of that, not to get again too far off line, but like when you start to aggregate all those things, and then it becomes, now you're starting to talk about like demand response and like actual like aggregation of batteries for grid reliability and like those sorts of things.
Yeah.
That's even like a whole other level of stuff. But what we're starting to see is we talked last time that like New York State has like a top-down mandate now for school buses that they've got.
Right.
The city of Boston is going with a bunch of stuff beyond the Federal Highway Administration. I think I just saw there's another $5 billion that the federal government's about to roll out for like school bus, bus electrification. So it's really trying to be like aware of what's out there and what we can potentially go after and be ready to put a pilot together or to put something out in place that's going to be
and
ready to
the
take advantage of
climate
those sorts of things.
action plan, we should, as you're mentioning all these things, maybe a part of that scope of services is to get back sooner rather than later to grab those dollars, right, which will go fast.
Right.
And grab to then be able to take to be able to go after like the action. So like for the fire department, Chief Norris is looking very seriously that the next fire truck we buy, which is supposed to be in 2023 on our capital plan, is electric. Because they're out there, and we're not sure of the cost and whatnot, but it's pretty doable. And if you take the cost, like say the electric fire truck is more money, the amount we spend on gas, never mind repairs, we have to take that truck, our trucks now, to Albany. Albany is the only place that services our fire trucks.
Wow.
Because everybody else is, I know, I had my first budget. Oh shit. I'm sorry.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
DPW.
Okay.
I'm about to get. I'll tell you, there are certain things I'm not getting real great now. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, no, it
Well,
is, and the federal, I need to talk to the district director of that federal highway. So Cassie, if you remember, we'll get him on the phone.
Okay, all right, cool.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. Well, just gonna wrap that back into the bus conversation real quick. Long lines with what we're, now is again the time to be talking about it. We only had one bid. What's the name of the company that does it again? Durham. Thank you. I couldn't remember that. I was talking to somebody the other day. We're not big enough to influence what they're going to do, perhaps, and maybe we're not willing to take on the capital expense of like owning all these things. But that's where the sort of looking at an aggregate plan, like with Northampton and Hampshire, like where we can have some more influence and really start to push on that side and say, hey, if they fine, they may not worry about losing our contract, but if they're going to lose 3 contracts, if they don't come up with some idea about how to do some electrification, then maybe that's where we can or, again, we can look at incentives that are available privately, publicly, federal, state, that, it's a lot to think about, it's a lot. You can see this conversation's going 20 different directions when you start thinking about things. But it sounds like, from her standpoint, like electrification of vehicles is definitely a priority, something we'd like to see more of, and whatever influence we can have on that as a policy thing, or just as like a general public education thing. Seems like a good direction to.
I'd love,
to go.
same for the meeting, I'd love to see if I can have a cup of coffee with Chris Mason, because from the point of view of the electric bus stuff, not so much. The other is interesting too, in the ground source heat pumps, but what my part-time job boss, transportation manager at Northampton Public Schools
Right.
said is that, there's a lot of promise, but there's a lot of pitfalls and problems. And one thing is, little towns like Easthampton, Northampton, they generally feel like it's not worth owning their own fleet. It just doesn't pay. But
I'm sure that's true.
I'm not sure, but that's what their feeling is, so that's important to recognize it. And aggregating with other communities for a contract where you work with the private sector is another thing, is another way, just bulk, get bulk
Right.
purchasing or economies of scale. But what they said though is, especially when I hear that they're talking about the fire department wanting an electric vehicle, is that what Tammy Lieber said was that Chris, and there's a whole Northampton-wide committee, it's a citywide committee, the DPW, the Recs department, school department, everybody who has any kind of vehicles is together trying to figure out, because the school committee mandated electric, but no more purchase of diesel or gas
right.
buses. They only have a small fleet for the kids with IEPs and the kids who can't be picked up on the regular routes. But they said no new diesel buses. So they're going down that route. But the infrastructure issues are so complicated, and the planning for how to manage the two-way charging. I mean, two-way, putting the power back into the infrastructure and gaining advantage of the payments for that. It's so complicated that they have to deal with citywide. School committee can't solve their own.
Right.
Fire department can't solve this by themselves because
Right.
of maintenance issues, because of charging infrastructure, all that. So I'd like to know more about how Northampton's doing it and see if that seems like something appropriate for us to try to organize.
My question was, Northampton is only talking about doing this with their vans, their small vans, because they aren't. Don't they also use a
No, they're not
company
just
that
talking
provides
about-
buses?
They use the same company we do.
That's what I thought.
They've got, I don't know, 8 or 10 Durham buses, or maybe more, I
Right.
can't remember, buses for the majority of their kids. But
Right.
like 3 or 4 or 5% of their kids get transported on 4 buses. They're
Right.
smaller buses, but they're not vans. They're
Okay.
small buses, they're capacity of 30.
But that's what they're talking about, that they would purchase as electric vehicles.
For their stuff, for their own,
Okay,
yeah.
I
And whether
just-
they
that's what I
required
wanted
it
to
of
say.
Durham is another matter.
Mhm.
And I just heard somewhere, and it's something you sent me, that Five Star actually, who's the only other one nearby, who works with the bigger cities down south,
Okay.
I heard they put a bid on, I gotta go back and find out, they put a bid on to some city for electric bus service, just,
Huh.
I think it was a one or two vehicle
Interesting.
thing. So they may be capable, but, so, I'd like to talk to you later or something to see
Hey.
if you can introduce me to Chris, or just say, or sit down together and talk to him about how they're handling that.
Yeah.
He's supposedly an infrastructure whiz.
Well, and that's, and if we're looking at a comprehensive.
Charging infrastructure, I mean. So.
Yeah. If we're looking at a comprehensive climate action resiliency plan, like that's something that could feed into that,
Mhm.
right? And across different departments,
So another question seems to be
Okay.
with Durham, which it sounds like we're kind of stuck with, because it's unlikely that we are going to buy our own buses. They're fabulously expensive. But I wonder whether we should be talking to them and seeing, is there money available for companies like them to switch over to electric buses, and do they know about it?
Well, that's-
should we be trying
exactly.
to,
And that's what
develop
we're
a
talking
They
about.
relationship
can
with them?
take advantage of the federal vehicle credits
Right.
for
And what a
battery
municipality
operated
can.
vehicles, huh?
Okay.
I'm gonna call this to order. Okay, I'm gonna call the Easthampton City Council Ordinance Committee to order Monday, May 9th, a little after 6 p.m. And this meeting is being held in person.
Wow.
Yay. And we're not remote because they haven't figured out how to do that yet. So it looks like we're all here. We do have 2 sets of minutes, and you want me to? I can pull those up if you want, or we can just approve them. It doesn't matter to me.
The 22nd and the 29th, one was the joint public hearing.
Okay.
I can make a motion to approve those.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
This day we don't have to do roll call, right?
I know, that felt so ridiculous.
Yeah, that's really great. So, there's nobody here from the public for public speak time.
Public?
Nope, no public. And the people that I invited don't seem to be here yet. So, and I actually never heard back. I think some members of the EDIC were interested in coming. I know there were a couple. I know that Gwen had a conflict, so she wasn't going to be able to come. So let's take a look at what we have. There's 2 things I wanted to dig into a little bit tonight, and I have them both pulled up because we have this really nifty. So this is the vacant storefront. And then we also, I don't know if you all saw this, but it was a town-by-town comparison of vacant storefront ordinance. So I figured we could take a look at this.
Yeah. I saw that we got it, and I skimmed it, but I haven't really got it.
So we can dig into that a little bit. And then I pulled this up, which is the things that we wanted to, these are the ordinance review committee recommendations. And I thought maybe we could get ourselves into a place, because I did talk to Barbara and she seemed to think that we could bundle the minor ones, but she wants us to wait till the new fiscal year because the advertising is going to be a bit of a bear, because we have to put in all of the language for each one that we change. So it's going to cost money.
Okay.
But I thought maybe we could dig into that just a little bit. And
The ones that we already wanted to approve, or the?
Yeah, just to get the finalized list.
I have it in the minutes from that date.
You do have it in
Yeah.
the minutes. So maybe what we can do is we can pull those out, put it in
Yeah.
a new document. We can send that to Barbara with like the proposed changes. So maybe we can just, that's something we can jump into. And then I know, so we have new business, which was just, and I'll make this up later so we can all see it in there. Which is the amend chapter 6 by adding 2623 deceptive advertising practices at limited pregnancy centers. So we can talk about that as well. So I was thinking maybe we could start with the ordinance review committee stuff. Just to give people, if the building commissioner is going to be able to make it, give them a little time to get here. And I think as we look at this, I think of as many of these little ones that we can get to Barbara for the easy changes, I think we should try to bundle all those together and do it all at once.
Yeah.
Right? And then I think the other ones we're going to have to pull out and resubmit them to the committee as new agenda items, just so it's really clear what we're trying to do. Does that
Yeah.
seem like it makes sense to you guys?
I'm just trying to find where, I know I typed up all the things.
And and remember we were gonna do like a matrix or like a spreadsheet or something. I don't know.
Tom's are
Did that ever happen?
good. Oh, here it is though.
Oh wait, we found it?
Yeah, so
I don't know if I sent it to you.
it's the February 17th minutes. Do you want me to just share with you again?
Do you mind?
Yeah.
Because like if you do that, I can pull it up in my.
Yeah,
Let's just see. Pull this. I mean, I can also look for it too.
You're
217.
Yeah, it's February 17th.
No, that's a COVID dashboard.
Email, call, writers. Just email it to you, up to the top.
Okay. Yep, there it is. Okay, got it. And let me, this is so cool. I can just shoot my screen past. Source is. Let's take a look.
So, if you go down to the continuing business, that's kind of all of our,
These are all the ones.
that was our decisions.
Oh, okay.
So those are, yeah, that's our recommendation, or what we want to change.
Oh, okay. All right, so what I think we can do are being recommended based on order to I think I'll put these in a new document. I'll just cut and paste these out, and then we can just go through each one, make sure that we feel like it's ready to go. Does that sound like a plan?
Great.
All right, very good. So let me just create a new document here. It's gonna take a quick second. And I'm going to cut, paste. Okay. All right, I got them all in.
Oh, and don't forget just that last thing at the bottom. The
Yeah, yeah.
board
You
recommends
have
the gender
guidelines.
language.
Oh, this. Oh yeah. There you go. Thanks for that catch. I was like, it doesn't have a number next to it, so.
Because it's like 20 different things.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm gonna actually. Hold on, I'll share this. I'm just formatting this real quick so we can see it, and then I will stop the share, and then I'm gonna pull up this one. Start the share. Okay. So let's take a look at these one at a time. So, when an ordinance, jeez. When an ordinance prohibits any act without the license or permission of a certain officer, board, or committee, such officer, board, or committee shall have the right to issue a license for a permit for such act to be performed. And is that is
That's our change.
That's what we changed it to?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was way more confusing before that.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
I think that's just because there's a bunch of points where it says you can't do this without a license from the liquor board. And it's like, okay,
Right.
and just to be super clear, in stating that, we are also stating that the liquor board has the authority to issue that license. I don't actually understand why we need this language, but if some lawyer at some point decided it was necessary, I'm not going to rock that code.
Okay.
Or just the committee. And that's how we-
Okay, here we go. And then so that one is relatively straightforward.
These
Okay.
are all the low-hanging fruits, so they
Yeah.
look pretty.
So the city council shall cause copies of these ordinances posted on the city website and to be kept in the city clerk's office in print and digital form, where copies or portions thereof may be requested.
I think we added the website, and we also took away a charge, I think.
I think so, yeah. And this is under section 2-51, section C. Is that members
Yeah,
of the council?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I might, is it okay if I just move that up?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think that it's like this C is a new thing. There's not
Okay.
a current section C.
Okay.
Um,
So I'll say add
Or
section
maybe
C.
No,
there
no,
is.
no, there was.
There was?
Let me look at the ordinances.
Yeah. Members of the council of aging shall be appointed by the mayor for terms of 3 years.
No, it was there, it just was like, they shall be appointed for life or something before. They
Right.
shall-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Until
just-
they die.
It didn't say what their term length was, so
Right.
that's sort of the
Forever.
implication.
And so this accept change here that was just that we accepted the changes within this section 2.83?
Yeah, whatever,
So I'm
yeah.
wondering if I just take that out, accept
yeah,
change?
take it out,
Okay.
yeah, I think so, just take it.
Okay, so upon receipt of such a request, the city council shall vote to convene a 5-member panel to review proposed names, to hear public testimony, including holding public hearing, and to offer a recommendation to the council. The mayor shall appoint 2 members of his or her choosing to the panel. Should we say they're choosing if we're going
Yeah.
general neutral
Yeah,
language?
yeah,
That
yeah.
makes more sense.
Yeah, they're choosing
Okay. Because
section 251, I didn't even see.
there. Is that wrong? There?
You got
There.
it right the second time.
Jeez. Okay. Oh, and we're just gonna eliminate sections 5. I wonder if there's any other gender non-neutral language. I didn't see any. But that's good for us to
I think like, I mean, we could go through and just do and just look
search.
at all the places it says he in the
Yeah.
document.
Yeah,
There's
and then
a bunch.
replace.
It did say, that was already section C. It just had before said,
Okay.
until their successors are designated.
Okay. So we have, in section 8.1, Counselor Peak will rewrite for ease of comprehension.
Which I did, it's in your email.
Alright, so let me grab that. I'll look for it.
It's still not great, but it's better.
I remember it. I remember when you sent that.
We all read it, we were like, we're
Yeah.
not even sure
I wanted to just.
What's scuba diving over there?
What happened?
Kind of looks like it, yeah.
What is it?
Someone's like scuba diving in the pond.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds fun. I want to go see that. Revised 8.1 language?
Yep.
Okay. And I am going to. So let's cut and paste. This here. Okay, garbage, and I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger and get it in line with the rest. Because these, I believe, are EB Karma. Huh.
You know how you do it, right? You put that, the paint thing up in the, next to the left
Yeah,
100%.
this thing?
Yeah, if you put it over what you want it to format it, it'll format it. No, first the other one.
Oh, first this one?
And then you paint that formatting onto that, yeah. Now put
And
the
then paint.
yeah, and then
That's actually good. Look at that. Jeez, I learn something new every day.
That's like most of my job, is just painting and formatting.
Oh, really?
No, I do a lot of report writing and people will send in different sections.
Yeah, different fonts. All right, section 8.1, garbage or refuse. Any dirt, filth, garbage, decaying animal or vegetable matter, snow, ice, or any combustible or non-combustible waste material. This includes, but is not limited to, such material as papers, playbills, posters, notices, advertisements, printed papers of any description, or any advertising, appliance, or medium, except newspapers distributed to purchasers, rags, cotton boxes, cartons, boxes, wood, rubber, leather, tree branches, yard trimmings or clippings, tin cans, metals, mineral matter, glass, dust, and the residue from the burning of wood materials, coke, and other combustible materials. No person shall place or cause to be placed any garbage or refuse on any street, lane, common, park, court, alley, or other public place in the city without the express approval of the city council or its agents. No person shall do the same on any private property without the express approval of the owner of the said property or agent. Okay.
That huge definition of what garbage and refuge was like nested within a sentence.
Yes,
Before.
I remember.
So I decided the easiest way to do it would be to just start it with a definition.
Yeah,
And then
that makes sense. And I'm wondering, I mean, no person shall place or cause to be placed any garbage or refuse on any street, lane, common, park, court. Are we getting should we put in an exception here for people that put their garbage on the street to get picked up? Like, do we need to do that, or is it just implied that that's an acceptable use? Because this kind of makes that against city ordinance.
you know, that's a good, like, I guess that would be a good point. Well, I guess if you do that on your property,
If you do it under,
then it's the express
it's
approval
fine.
of you are the
It's
owner,
fine.
so it's fine.
Right. But but generally, the city owns about the first 3 feet off
Okay.
the street.
Okay, good. So I guess you could
What
say,
is coke? Like,
I think, isn't that, it's like a burned,
like burned up wood. and
yeah, it's
stuff.
like pot ash and coke. I
Okay.
think are kind of similar. That
Yeah.
could be. Let's Google it. Hey, I mean, let's
no Coca-Cola.
No, Google.
coke. Let's see. Oh, it is. Coke dust is combustible and an explosion hazard, potentially catastrophic hazard which must be controlled in coke handling operations. So what is it? Coke, coal, and wood are fossil fuels that are used for cooking purposes. I don't think anybody would use coke anymore, right?
I don't think so.
I wonder if that's one of the things we can
Yeah.
strike out of here.
Yeah.
Wood material. How about other
Yeah, that
combustible?
covers, that
Yeah,
covers
if it-
coke.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we don't need that comma. So, all right, perfect. And no person shall place or cause to be placed any garbage. Do we want
I
to?
guess you
it's
could say
literally
something like,
except for the express intent of it being picked up or something.
what's the phrase we use in a bunch of places where it's like, this should not be understood to mean,
Yeah.
Garbage that's
yeah, like,
that's placed for the purpose of.
Yeah. This section should not.
like, there's a specific language you use in like our right to farm ordinance
Yeah.
that says like, it's just a good way of saying like, yeah, this shouldn't be construed.
Construed to prohibit
The placing out of garbage or recyclables.
the placement
For,
of trash
for designated.
for the express purpose of being picked up.
Yeah, express orders are being picked up by, just picked up.
Yeah.
It's collected.
Collected by a licensed, no, I guess it is.
Collected. In a timely manner.
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah.
That's easy. That's an easy fix. Not
Should
construed.
not-
It doesn't
not-
like that.
not be construed.
Not be construed. See. All right. Thank you, Google.
Great.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Yeah.
We good?
Looks good to me.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Okay. So, and this is section F. I'm assuming. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna put a period there.
Do we leave crockery in there?
No person shall place upon any street in the city any glass, crockery,
I'm surprised we left that in there.
scrap iron, nails.
Let me look what it looks like. Maybe it was
Okay.
like, maybe that's a big improvement of what it was.
Okay.
Maybe we were worn down.
I have it here too.
Okay.
I have it if you want.
Okay.
See if I can find the crockery. Wait, what was this? This was 8.21.
Yeah.
Yeah, no person shall address me else to occur.
Oh,
We took
into
out,
the feet of
we
horses.
took out into the feet of horses.
Well, we just said animals or
We changed it to
Yeah.
animals or people. Any
Yeah.
glass, no person shall place on the tree and any crockery.
I mean, it's a little old-fashioned.
It's cute.
like-
It's cute.
But it is kind of, it has like that.
We should leave some.
Yeah, totally. We should leave some like
Little vintage
hokey
language.
Easthampton language in here. Why not,
Exactly.
right? Okay, and now playing games in the streets. Come on, that's like summertime being a kid. But let's say, right, let's give this one.
I know, I don't like this.
All right, no person shall, within the limits of any public street or highway in the city, play any games which interfere. That seems far. Okay, with the convenient and free use of the street or highway of any person traveling or passing along the same. No person shall throw stones. That's fine. Snowballs, sticks, or other missiles, or shoot any spring gun or air gun or bow and arrows into the public way of the city. I love that.
I want to know like the situation.
What
caused that
caused
to be.
that?
And in the 1940s, there was this town was wild in the 40s.
I guess so.
Late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah. I mean, some big snowball fights, maybe. I don't know, with air guns and. Yeah, I think.
I'm seeing a fun art project of finding pictures from the 40s and like putting it next to these ordinances.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. You could put that
Mm.
art gallery feature. I think this is fine, right?
Yeah.
We already fixed this one. So 8.35. Looks like that's duplicate right there. Obstructing sidewalks by placing objects thereon. No person shall place upon any sidewalk and any object so as to obstruct the sidewalk for more than 1 hour or more than 10 minutes after being notified the police officer to remove it. Alright, fair enough. We fixed that one, I guess. Barricading lighting. Any person who is granted permit to obstruct or excavate upon any street shall put up and keep at all times suitable railing around the parts of the sidewalk or street so obstructed or dug up. As long as the same shall be unsafe or inconvenient for traveling, the person granted the permit shall also ensure there's a sufficient amount of lighting where
Section maybe.
where the parts of the streets lighting where the parts of the streets or sidewalk are dug up from dusk to dawn to warn travelers. That's interesting.
Yeah, didn't it have something about like lanterns before?
Yes,
Yeah,
it did say
lantern.
lantern. Now, I'm thinking this is interesting because as we have some building projects around the city right now, or street works,
Right.
South Street was just dug up, and there was no lighting on the areas of the sidewalk that were dug up. They did have cones, and they put plastic over the cement, but with the areas that were dirt, they didn't have any barriers preventing people from
Well, maybe they should have.
That's what I'm thinking.
So I didn't have lanterns.
They did not have lanterns.
Especially there's so many like little LED, little.
Yeah, I'm fine with this. I mean, I think it's. I don't think we need. I mean, this is from 1945, but okay. So we took out the lanterns, so that's fine. And then this one is we're gonna try to get all gendered language in the ordinance to be revised to be non-gender specific, which we did that in this grouping here.
Yes.
And I think probably this is gonna be a recommendation that we. So I believe there is supposed to be a full-scale review of the ordinances every 10. Do you remember the charter? It's 10
Yeah,
years.
it's every 10 years.
So, maybe that is something that we can add into that full-scale review. Is just go through the entire document and do find and replace for he and her.
Can't we just do that here? Like,
I mean, we could.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. But we'd have to.
Do we have to do it?
Here's how. What we'd have to do is we'd have to mark every instance and like say where it is and give it to Barbara because she'd have to advertise it.
okay, so if we said the word he in sections A, B, C, D, E, F, and G will be replaced with they.
Yeah, that's actually
Okay.
that's probably a better way to do it. All right, so let's. Do you want to? Because we could probably do that now without it being too time consuming.
Yeah, I'm starting to look. The problem in my search and find is it's putting anywhere that the letters he or.
Oh, are
Do
you
the whole words only.
Oh, I wonder if you put it in quotes.
I tried that, but then I didn't find anything.
Oh, there's gotta be a trick, Tom. You know?
I
It depends on the. Usually, if
It's
you.
not, it's like a Google or they said
There-
PDF search,
tried. I'm just in
right?
my Chrome searching now.
Yeah.
Maybe if I look good.
So I'll pull up the ordinances.
Are you sure we can't just say like throughout the document?
I wish we. Well, I can ask Barbara. I mean,
There might not be that many actually when I'm searching. It's hard to know because of the situation
Right.
we're having. But as I'm flipping through,
that would be nice.
let me see if I get.
Business.
Like everywhere his is kind of this. Let me see if I can download it. Another program.
Control F.
Let's see. It came up with 4,964,
Yeah, but those are
and those are all part of
other words.
other words established when.
See what? So weird. I know how to do this in like I've got everything downloaded like Adobe, like, whatever.
Yeah.
On my computer, and I can pretty easily do this, but I'm not sure how to do it.
On here. I mean, well, if it's something that you think is, like, I'll just scroll through and see if I can find anything that pops out real quick. But if you have a way to do this quickly, it doesn't look like there's that. It doesn't look like there's that many because I haven't found one, and I'm over 100 in now. It's mostly the.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding that too.
Wonder if I did he/she. Oh, I found one. There's 3. Here we go.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I put it in quotes and that's working.
All right, so
Preview.
it looks like section 4-18.
Yep,
Section
number
number 4.
Yeah,
So let me put that on here.
and then section 521.
All right, hold on here. I'm gonna 4-18
Mhm.
section 4, and just like oops, good spell, really good spell. Okay, and you said what was the next
Section
one?
5-21.
5-21.
To believe he is a minor.
Okay, so and that is section
5-.
5-21. Is there a sub?
Yep.
Oh, so replace he.
Yep. And then the next place is section 612.
12.
And it's letter, it's under police powers of arrest.
Okay.
And kept into custody until he or she can be taken before the court. It's under F. Well, it's not part of F though, it's like another
Under F.
paragraph. Police powers of arrest of city ordinances, section 612.
Okay. And
Okay. And then-
place he, she.
Yep, he, she.
Okay.
And then, this is section 615C. There's the word he. Specific ordinance or rule or regulation in which he / comma she or it is empowered to enforce. Who's it? Oh, it's the department.
The department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
And do we want all of these replaced with they?
they, yeah.
Yeah.
The next one is, sorry, section 842. It's under erection of barriers. The word he is used twice.
Okay. 8
Dash 42.
dash 42.
There's two he's. Every such person shall erect upon any building which he owns or which he has charge. Let's see the next one. F under section 95.
Okay, which one is this? 9.5?
Section 95, business owner's permit. Letter F is a he, she, he/she. There's a he/she in there.
F. I'm just gonna go.
Okay, the next one is section 9-6. There's a he in letter A. No person shall operate a vehicle unless he or she, it says he or she, so he or she. Looks like, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Let me put in his though.
Okay.
Because there's at least one where it talks about the
Okay.
mayor and specifically. the
Yeah, so
office of the mayor.
section 2-72.1.
Okay. I'm gonna put these in order. So 2-271.
272.1.
2-72.
2-72.
And that is number 7. Replace his, her, his/her.
Right? With that?
With their,
Them?
their. DII.
Okay. There.
DII. Okay. Section 2-79.
2-9.
To replace his. Any members of his immediate family. There's a lot more of the his, her than.
Oh, really?
She, yeah.
Oh boy.
Section 2-83.
Okay.
Second paragraph. There's 2 his, hers to replace.
Yes.
Yep, and 2, there's 2 of them.
Both.
Yep.
Oh, birth.
Section 3-37. Replace his. Car operator of a bicycle. This is letter C. Sorry, letter C. The operator of a bicycle shall signal by either hand his intention. 3. Letter C. Yeah, replace his. Okay. Oh no. Section 4-3.1. about veterans, letter D. There's 3 of the word his in this paragraph about defining veterans. His, I mean. Okay.
With there, right?
Yeah. Section 5-2.
Oops. There's 2. No, I'll go through and make sure all the
Okay.
capitalizations and all this stuff. is
Okay.
right.
Letter B.
5-2?
Yep, letter B. There's 2 his. It's talking about farmers. The farmer who raises his own produce. Okay. Section 5-16. There's 1 his clothing.
1.6 or 16?
5-16, sorry. Okay. Section 5-20. There are 2 hises. Section 5-33. So it's all in the possessive pronouns.
5-33?
Yep, letter B. There's a his, her, his/her.
They or there?
There. This is all possessive. EIR. And then you can just copy and paste that, because it's the same thing, section 534B. There's also a his, her.
Okay. And I'll just You said 4?
Yep, 434. Okay, now let's see this. Section 5-36. A.
Yeah. 36A.
All right. Section 5-39.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.